Starting a new job late in your career, especially when you could be retired, is kind of a strange thing. It gives you a strange feeling. You feel like a fish out of water, and you're surrounded by people who know what they're doing, have been part of this company, and here you are as one of the elder statesmen coming in as a newbie. So stick around. We're going to talk about, can you teach an old dog new tricks? So my situation is a little different than most. I spent decades helping build companies, create them from the ground up, being part of that team that comes in and creates from nothing a company, right? IT infrastructure, business processes, sales, all of that. So I never had to come in, at least not for a very long time, and learn what someone else is doing. We always were creating it. So now here I am in this new job, which I think I like a lot, but I have the anxiety and the pressure of trying to learn how to do things their way instead of creating things that are done my way. And not that one way is better than the other. It's just my way is natural to me and their way is something that's different. So I'm in this phase now of trying to learn their company as fast as I can. And the challenge is I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself. I want to do well. I don't want to fail. I want to be a high performer. And that all just kind of compounds the anxiety of going back to work in your late 50s and early 60s. You don't want to be seen as someone who can't handle it or too old for this or any of the stereotypes. So there's an added level of pressure aside from just wanting to come across as competent. So everyone else is running around seemingly like they know what they're doing. And I get part of this is imposter syndrome, where you feel like you're faking it, right? The old fake it till you make it. But imposter syndrome is where you don't feel like you're qualified to do the job, or you really know what you're doing, or everyone else knows what they're doing so much better than you do. So that kind of factors into the anxiety too about this. And it's something that I'm trying to work through. I'm trying to intentionally retain an aura of calmness, not get caught up in the anxiety. To be honest, the first week, my anxiety levels were really off the chart. I was doing everything I could to contain them as I talked to people and was just getting flooded with all of their acronyms and the way they do things and their semantics and syntax. So it was taking me a while to kind of figure it out and figure out what I could derive on my own and when I had to go and talk to people and ask for help, which is a great opportunity to meet people, right? You have this new organization and you don't know anyone. So having these little vignettes with people to have discussions and learn about stuff is just really a good way to bond and find out what's really going on. And not only talk about the business, but talk about each other too. So get to know who's someone you'd like to talk to more versus someone that, maybe is a little more gruff or direct or to the point that, yeah, they're a great person and a great resource, but on a personal level, maybe there's just no connection there, right? No fault of their own. So in this scenario, I will continue to kind of dodge and weave and figure out where I'm going and where I'm going to take it and work on becoming fluent in how they do business. So I think fluency is more important than competency at this point. It's just learning what to say, where things are at, how they work, and having the humility to accept what I don't know and ask questions when I don't know. The challenge in all this is our own self-doubt, right? Whenever we get into an unfamiliar situation, in the back of our head, we always have that self-doubt going, can I do this? Can I pull this off? Are they going to find out I'm a fraud? And while none of that is true, you still have that process going that you're constantly working to overcome as you're sitting there talking to people and trying to absorb what they're saying and what they're showing you and find out where the bits of information are that are useful versus everything they're giving you and trying to categorize it. So you always have, again, in the back of your head, that self-doubt going that maybe I can't do this anymore. Maybe at my age, this isn't going to work out. The good news is you start to ingest the information and it starts to kind of become part of you and it starts to all gel together. That goes away. Once you kind of separate the wheat from the chaff and figure out what you really need to know and try and get some focus and clarity on what you're going to do for periods each day where you don't need to know everything, you just need to know each slice to move forward. That is a big way of saving your mental health and moving forward and picking yourself up and making progress. So don't panic. That's a big takeaway here. Don't panic when it gets like that. Just take a deep breath and figure out what your next step is going to be, how you're going to organize things, who you're going to talk to. All that is going to be important in this kind of journey later in life. And this is true whether you're joining a technology business, as I did, or whether you're starting a retail job is just some way to find extra money and time to kill. Everything has its own complexity and their own vernacular of how they talk about things and all the pieces you need to know. So it's all going to be kind of the same issues, even though the jobs seem like they're worlds apart. But really, they're not. It's about ingesting the information, processing the information, incorporating the information into what you already know so that you can move forward. So I have to keep reminding myself, you don't need to come in and be the rock star day one. Chances are, even though you left as a rock star at your prior job, you probably weren't one day one. So rewind a bit, go back, reach that into that humility, focus on fluency before you work on trying to impress people. Sit back in meetings and listen before you start suggesting your way of doing things. This is important. This is key. So fluency comes first. And as you build up that fluency, then you start to get confident. Your confidence will grow as you understand what's going on and as you start contributing in small bits in meetings and conversations. And over time, those small bits will become larger bits. And then they'll come looking for you for your advice. And this will take weeks or more likely months. This could be 3 to 6 months or maybe a year, depending on the complexity of the environment you're in. So focus on becoming fluent rather than worrying about impressing them day one. You're just going to fall flat on your face if you come in guns a-blazing, you know what to do, when you don't even know what their business is. So this is a critical talking point. Sit back, relax, and ingest what they're giving you. They're going to feed you tons of information. That phrase, drinking from a fire hose, is for real here. It's going to be so much, you're not going to be able to handle it. But make notes, write things down, copy and paste, bookmark web pages, and go back later after the anxiety subsided a bit, and then figure out what you truly need to know. When you go to that next meeting, then, is you sit down and talk with people, ask questions. Let them know this is a new environment. You're new at the company. You're feeling like a fish out of water. People are often willing to help because it's usually in everyone's best interest if a new hire can get up to speed and produce. And this is what you're there for. You're there to have something to do during your long days. Either you were retired and you went back to work, maybe you wanted to, maybe you needed the money, maybe it's just a part-time gig, but you still want to go in there and make connections and make a worthwhile impact for what you're doing each day. Because there's no point in just showing up. The point is to have connection and to have impact and to do things. Even if it's a job you're just doing for the enjoyment of it, it makes it that much more meaningful when there's connection. So with that self-doubt and that anxiety, it's all predicated on that fear of failure, right? You came from success. You want to be able to replicate that success. You want to be able to step right into it. But if you're going into a totally different environment, none of the same people, none of the same technology, none of the same environment at all, then it's going to be hard to do that. It's going to be hard to overcome that. And you're going to fear failure. And fearing it to an extent is good, but don't let it paralyze you. You know what? You're a mature person. You're in your 50s or 60s. You've been around. Unless you're desperate for a job, just sit back and relax. In fact, even if you are desperate, sit back and relax because you may end up sabotaging yourself via your fear of failure if you don't. Just be honest, work with people, ask the questions. This fear and self-doubt will continue, but the trick for you is to make it controllable. Don't let fear and self-doubt run your life. What happens next is really a factor of time. That is, again, a secret ingredient, just like when you were saving money and it was compounding over time. But with this job, over time, you're going to grow bits and bits of confidence. You're going to have things you get to know and things you become well versed at, and you can lean on those and move forward from those. So this is really going to be key. Things will start to click. You just need to wait for it. You may not even notice it at first, but celebrate those small wins. When you have an answer, when you contribute in a meeting, those are all the baby steps so you can move forward to continue to grow, to learn, to get past the anxiety. So you'll recognize this because there will be fewer mental translations, right? Someone will say something and it'll just click what it is. Conversations will make sense instead of it feeling like they're talking in a foreign language. The patterns of what's going on and how things operate will emerge, and then you will begin to understand it. So this will happen, but it's going to be 3 months out, 6 months out, maybe even longer before you truly recognize it. But look for those little bits where you can offer positive momentum, where you can give your opinion, where you can offer a suggestion, where you're sought out for an answer. And that's really a win. That's really when things will start to click and then you'll move forward. As I said, to sum it up, this really isn't about fear of failure, and it shouldn't be. This phase is about assimilation. It's about becoming part of their organization. It's about understanding them. It's not about rubbing people the wrong way or offering suggestions on things you don't know about yet. It's about connection. It's about ingestion. It's about moving forward. And that's really what'll happen. The confidence will return on its own. It's down there, bubbling, and it'll eventually come to the surface. But forcing it by trying to be the big ego person or the loudest person in the room or the person with all the suggestions really is gonna rub everyone the wrong way and make problems for you. So in this phase, you're capable but uncomfortable. You're not doing it wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. You're just learning your way. You're finding your path. You're finding yourself in this environment, and you're continuing to move forward. So if you're in a similar spot, please share in the comments. I'm kind of curious to hear your stories. If you've gone back to work late in life, maybe it was because you weren't ready to retire, whether that's from an emotional standpoint or a financial standpoint, and you had to go look for a job. Maybe you were retired, but got bored for some reason and went back to work to have something to do several hours a day. There's lots of reasons for this. But I think if we can all come together and talk about our experiences, that'll help with encouraging each of us to move forward in this environment. Future clarity will come. You just have to be patient and wait for it and continue to work toward that goal. It'll come to you and you'll be okay. You can do this. You've changed jobs. You've grown through life. Moving into a new job late in life, it's really the stereotypes that are holding you back. You don't want to be one of the stereotypes. But let go of that and just focus on what you're doing each day, and you'll be successful. Remember, fluency first, confidence follows. I appreciate the time you spent watching this video. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe. There's lots of videos about Gen X issues, pre-retirement, retirement, my own journey on this channel, Gen X Third Act. So click that like button, and if you haven't subscribed already, please help us by subscribing, and we'll continue to grow the channel. I appreciate you, and I appreciate your time.